The scenario to be played is Destruction. It has a 12x6 rectangle placed in the middle of the board. It has the kill box in effect. You will then also place 2 objectives on opposite corners. You get 1 point for destroying or removing from play your opponent's objective. You get 1 control point for controlling the zone and 2 for dominating. First person to 5 points wins the game.
Greetings Internet, this is Shadow Sword. For my first time on the channel, I'm bringing Thyron the Sword of Truth, whose battle group has a Banshee and Moros, a full unit of Dawnguard Invictors with their UA, full unit of Infiltrators with Eiryss, Fane Knight Skeryth Issyen, a House Shyeel Artificer, Narn, 2 Arcanists, and Sylys Wyshnalyrr.
Greetings everyone, this is Gaston, and today we are here with Anson Durst again, and this time we're using his theme force. For his theme force I'm using dual Judicators, which is something that I found to be particularly strong and a very potent list, and I think it really matches well with his strengths, which is to jam them forward, pop feet with that armor, and then have 2 turns of just 2 Judicators running wild through your army. There's also a couple of Paladins in the theme force as well to provide some scenario control.
So I run the roll for first turn, looking across the pre-deployed Judicators kind of sitting on either side of the zone, and not really having a whole lot in my list that can deal with Colossals. I put the Dawnguard, Invictors, and Moros to one side, staring down the white Judicator. The Banshee, Thyron, and Issyen on the other side to stare down the other one, which gives me some options if I have to end up dealing with them.
Due to the small size of the army, deployment is pretty easy. You just have a Judicator on either flank with a nice gap between them, room for your Temple Flameguard to fit in there, and then you're going to have Durst located centrally, along with Acquire, the Vassals, the Mechanik, and any other support that you want. The Paladins tend to go out on the flank wherever they need to go to approach flags or objectives or zones in order to contest them and just staying there. In this particular game, they're not going to have as big an impact as I'd like, just due to Retribution having Spell Piercer, making all of their weapons magical. But if you end up with a matchup where your opponent doesn't have magical weapons, they become a big deal.
So for my advanced deployment, I deploy Eiryss and the Infiltrators far over on the top side. The thought process in my head was I could use them kind of over there to go around the Judicator, flank his army a little bit, and provide some pressure from that side and force the Judicator to focus on the Infiltrators and not only on the zone. Narn deploys up with goes down with the rest of the army. So I'm staring across the table at 2 Judicators and 3 Paladins, and I'm not really feeling comfortable with my ability to be able to take out those 2 Judicators. So I think my best option is to go for the scenario victory and keep Thyron's feet kind of in my back pocket to enable an assassination on Durst if the opportunity presents itself. Bring the Invictors up, put them in pairs to give them defensive line, get a couple on the hill, and spread out the whole unit to limit casualties from Judicator rockets. The Infiltrators run up their side of the board, keeping a balance between the ability to flank his army if I decide to go that route with them, or swing in and engage at the center line. Again, I try to keep them spread out to limit the casualties from the Judicator rockets, which I know are going to be coming their way, and there's nothing I can really do other than limit the number that I'm going to lose to those rockets. Moros spends his one focus, he runs up. In the end, he's going to be there to assist the Invictors and give them a jack to flank off of. Thyron moves up. He's going to put a sail on the Banshee and Storm Rager onto Issyen. And he gets to cast both those spells at 8 inches thanks to Sylys. Here I make a mistake and move the Banshee and run the Banshee even though I haven't activated the Arcanist yet. The proper order there should have been the Arcanist walks up, power boosts, then the Banshee would have run. The overall board position didn't change much. The Artificer goes up, puts up his bubble to protect Thyron and Sylys from deviating rockets. Narn moves forward, putting himself in the center to be able to assassinate, hopefully end game. And Issyen runs, getting towards the center to give me plenty of options as to where I want to send him in on the second turn.
So, it was a little bit unfortunate that I lost the roll to go first, particularly with this list because it's so slow. It's really nice that if you do win the roll to take the option to go first just so you can straight up run the Judicators at your opponent. Because I'm going second, I'm already kind of on the back foot with his army, and I'm trying to use the Judicator pods to thin out the Mage Hunter Infiltrators a little bit before they hit my lines. So we're going to advance with both the Judicators, and then the Temple Flameguard are going to run on up and form that initial barrier. This is only my second game against Thyron, and my first game really taught me to respect his abilities and what he can do. There's a lot of deceptively hard-hitting models in this army that you really, really need to be careful about. Thyron himself, I think he can get up to be a POW 15 Weapon Master, which is very dangerous. But between his Assail and the additional attack, Cleave, that he gives to all of his Warjacks, those Warjacks are now actually Focus 5, technically, because they're charging for free and they're getting the free attack, which, you know, is like another focus. So they can actually do a surprising amount of work, a surprising amount of damage. Spell Piercer is going to kind of counteract Deflection. Here the Temple Flameguard are going to go ahead. They're going to Iron Zeal in turn 1, because if they don't, they're just going to get shot to pieces by the Invictors. I feel like those guys are named. Sorry, I'm pretty terrible with Retribution names. But the other kind of dangerous threat that's really scary in this list is also the Issyen, the Cavalry Dragoon model. And he can get up to freaking POW 19 Double Weapon Master, and if it's not my feat turn, that guy all on his own can take out probably half a Judicator with very little effort. The other things that I'm really, really concerned about is that sidestep feat, where he can kind of, Judicators are very easy to hit, and so he can kind of wrap a couple combat solos around there, wrap a jack around there, and get to Durst in the back. So the Judicators are making pretty good work out of the Infiltrators. I actually was rolling hot for scatters, so they tended to scatter off of them, go figure, of all the times to complain about rolling hot. Durst just advances, he casts Deflection just to force a Spell Piercer. Then the Choir are going to say, no shooting my jacks. And one of the things about this list that's very, very nice is how much no it brings to the table. Your opponent can't disrupt your Judicators, they can't place them, they can't take them over, and so you're always going to have access to these jacks. Now, you know, blind can be shaken, so that way that's, you know, helpful. So because of Spell Piercer, the Paladins are actually going to go ahead and go into Stone and Mortar stance. So they're all going to be Armor 25, and then Armor 21 plus 5 armor, and then Armor 23 with Deflection up.
So I give 2 focus over to the Banshee and start weighing some of my options. My best bet that I see in front of me is to take out as many of the Temple Flameguard as I can, and then worry next turn about what I'm going to do about the Judicators. So I bring Thyron up and cast Spell Piercer. That's to help me deal with the deflection spell from Durst that's currently up, help protecting the Temple Flameguard from my ranged attacks. Arcanist comes up, gives a focus to Moros, and then the Banshee advances and takes his shot at the Paladin. Boosts to hit, boosts the damage roll, slams the Paladin back into the linear obstacle. We make a mistake here, and I roll a damage for the shot, and then another one for the slam. And then we realize that no, that's not the way that actually is supposed to be done. We talk about it for a few minutes and then decide we're just going to roll an extra die that should have been applied to the first damage roll, and that kills the Paladin. Next, we can bring up Moros. It's going to fire the Death Shadow into the other Paladin. Do a double check on range, exactly where he needs to be. Shot hits. Does some damage, but not enough. Now I bring up the Invictors. They maintain in their two-man pairs for defensive line. The officer puts up his mini feats to give them their +4 range. And they're going to begin taking some shots into Gaston's army. The lower two there do a combined attack on the Paladin. And they hit, but fail to do enough damage to finish him off, which frustrates me a little bit. Now I start doing some combined shots and some single shots. Overall, the combined shots do much better for me than the single shots, and I only end up taking out 3 of the Temple Flameguard, which is not as many as I would have liked, given the volume of fire that I was able to put their way. The Invictor's done, the Paladin's still alive, and not enough damage done to the Temple Flameguard as I would have liked. I make the decision to commit Skeryth Issyen. He charges in, his charge target being the Paladin. Just barely makes it. And as a Mat 12 cavalry with Storm Rager on the charge, and 4 dice for damage, he finishes off the Paladin quite easily. Look at some options for his Rapid Strike, and end up taking the swing on one of the members of the Temple Flameguard. Artificer moves up, puts up his bubble again. Narn takes a shot at a Temple Flameguard with his crossbow. Fails to do enough damage to break armor. Now I'm looking at the Infiltrators and deciding that I need to send them in to weed out more of the Temple Flameguard. So they're going to go in, make their attacks, kill 3 members of the Temple Flameguard, reform in. After that, I'm hoping that I've got enough of a jam up between Issyen and the Infiltrators to keep my opponent out of the zone, and that next turn I can score a couple of control points.
So the Temple Flameguard took the brunt of that, and they actually took it a lot better than I'd expected. Losing the Paladins was unfortunate, but not unexpected, and it gives me a nice advantage in that the Fane Knight is there for me to be able to remove pretty early on in the game, so he's not going to have a chance to actually come in and wing on Judicator. So I did decide that this was going to be my feet turn, and what I'd really like to do is get that blue Judicator into the zone by running or trampling. So I need to be able to clear out those Infiltrators, and that's going to be difficult to do. But we're going to start with the choir going to go ahead, and they're going to chant battle. And I'm trying to position them in such a way that they're hopefully a little bit safe from ranged attacks. I don't know it's really going to work out that way. So the white Judicator is advancing, and moving Colossus is a pain in the butt. And rather than swinging on the Fane Knight, he's actually going to start shooting. So he's going to put both of his sprays into Moros, and he boosts a hit with the first one. He hits, and then he's going to boost damage. It does a little bit of damage, nothing wildly spectacular. He hard rolls the hit on the second one. He's also hitting the objective at the same time, because it's in the path of the spray. And then he'll boost damage on Moros the second time. And this will actually knock out the generator and the movement, I do believe. So there's a very nice hit roll there. He's going to take his rocket pod shot onto some of the infantry over there. We're going to that side because of the no AoE bubble that the Magister puts up. So he actually directly hits that guy with Rat 3. So go Judicator. And then his final rocket pod shot is just going to go into my opponent's objective, because it's easy to hit. I'm sorry, Moros's movement was not out at this point. So we're trying to decide if that rocket scatter there gets Eiryss, which I do believe it does, but unfortunately leaves around 1 health. So the whole plan here was to walk on up and use the range attacks to get a lot more benefits. And now we're going to have the Vassal walk on up base to base, ancillary attack on the Fane Knight, and dismount him with a POW 22 Fist. The problem with that plan that threw a wrench into the works was that I rolled Snake Eyes to hit. So that cavalry model survives the big meaty Judicator Fist, unfortunately. So with him still there, we're having to do some other planning here. So the second Vassal goes up, and he's going to have him spray down some of the Infiltrators here to free up some room to deal with this jamming and order of activation issues running dual Colossals is giving me. The extra sad news here is that the spray missed both of them. So that also makes it more difficult for me to open up a gap for the Judicator to come through when I pop my feet. So I'm really getting jammed hard here, and this is definitely a weakness of the dual Colossal lists. And something when you're designing and choosing your matchups, you should be very aware of. So the Temple Flameguard are going, they're just advancing up. If I'm smart, they'll go into shield wall here. This guy's doing a very long advance. I'm trying to make sure that there's a lane for Vilmon, and I just can't decide where to put them. I'm still hoping to get Vilmon in there, but also the blue Judicator, and finally I give up on the hope of the blue Judicator making it into that zone. So the Temple Flameguards start CMAing down some of the Infiltrators. They're quite successful. And now Vilmon's going to charge. He's going to go say he's base to base with the Judicator for the feet, and then he's going to successfully dismount the Dragoon. So now sadly the blue Judicator cannot get up into the zone. There's my shield guard or shield wall token. So he's just going to have to settle for spending his activation moving up and killing a few of the Infiltrators. Which is... it's disappointing, but you gotta clear them out. It is kind of what it is. So this is just me thinking a lot and being sad that my plan has gone horribly awry. So, the Judicator is just walking his 4 up. And he's going to center on Eiryss, and then he's going to drop a rocket pod straight up into that poor Temple Flameguard sucker right there. And we'll manage to directly hit, which will smack 2 of them right there. And the backscatter, I think, actually gets the 3rd. Oh, I'm sorry, just gets the 2. So he goes ahead, he takes a flamethrower shot onto the Infiltrator. We go ahead and we boost it. Kills him. Takes the second flamethrower on Eiryss, boosts that one. And hits and finishes her off. She only had 1 health from the rocket scatter. And then he'll take his final shot actually into Moros, and he will manage a direct hit on him with Rat 3 coming through again and scrap him. So that was a very pleasant surprise. And then finally Durst will advance, move base to base with one of the Judicators. He's going to go into Corning Stone stance, just in case he can move me around. I'm not entirely sure. So it's always better safe than sorry. We learned that from the Haley game. And then he's going to go ahead and feed.
I lost Moros. That was a little upsetting. I kind of hoped he'd survive a little bit longer. I can definitely take out his objective this turn and get Thyron into the zone to score 3 control points. It's the question of, can I hold the Judicators and what's left of the Temple Flameguard back afterwards to allow me to get the rest of the control points that I need to win. So bring the Banshee up. I take a shot at his objective. And next, it's going to be the Invictors. Their job is to re-jam up his lines and try to finish off that objective. So that a couple of the Invictors try to charge. They don't make it near as far as I want them to. You know, and those that aren't going to be aren't able to or don't have the distance to charge, they just run to block everything in. Couple of melee swings later, the objective is, unfortunately, still standing. Issyen takes it upon himself, finish off the objective. She does so soundly. puts his remaining swing into a Temple Flameguard. Now it's just a matter of closing up as many of the gaps that I can. Deciding where I can put things for my next turn.
So my opponent moved up to dominate the zone with Thyron, and he's trying to jam me out so that way he can win on control points. The catch to this is that Thyron is definitely within boundless charge range of a Judicator, and I'm pretty certain that this time around I'm going to be able to clear out that front line and put the Judicator onto him. The flip side of that is every time I go for an assassination it never quite works. So the other plan I'm kind of mulling through and trying to decide between is I just have the Judicator charge and kill his heavy, and that'll pretty much decimate his army. He won't have anything left to come after two completely fresh Judicators, even without the feet armor this turn. So, but we go ahead, we fully load up both of the Judicators, getting the one each from Reliquary and then the two off of Durst, and that'll leave him free to cast Boundless Charge with his remaining two. And having the Judicators with the Reliquary is what gives this list the focus efficiency enough to be able to work. I don't think without that ability that the list will function very well. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the Vassal come up, he's going to Ancillary Attack. And we're just trying to clear a few of the infantry out from in front of the Judicator so that way he has somewhere to walk. So they're only defense 12, so they're very easy to hit. And with Rat 7 Flamethrower, they just kind of go away. So that clears up a lot of the space right there. And then we're going to have Vilmon just kind of nudge on in to reach range of a Standard Bearer. And he's going to use his highly expensive Weapon Master POW 15 to kill a Standard Bearer. But it was necessary, so now the Judicator can go ahead and walk, so he's going to get a nice line with that spray during his activation. And he's just going to, he has both, he's centered onto the solo, and he's just going to spray straight down that line. And like I said, they're all defense 12, so they're very easy for him to hit. And I believe his attack on the Dragoon actually will miss, though, because that Dragoon is just frustratingly staying alive right there. So we're just going to do another spray, we're going to boost a hit, boost damage, knock the Dragoon out there. So that's pretty much everyone who's in the way of the Judicator getting to his caster. So now I have to decide whether I go for the caster or just go for the attrition. I'll have two Judicators in the zones no matter what, so I don't think he'll be coming back from that. And then just takes the rocket pods, continues to shoot at the objective. And then the right rocket pod does nothing because there's nothing in line of sight. So ultimately it takes me a long time to make this decision. I decided to kind of test the waters with the Temple Flameguard, and they're going to go ahead and charge in. They're going to do a CMA onto his caster, and they'll hit. I don't think they'll do any damage. They might do like 1 or 2 to him, but they do light him on fire. And then there's some terror checks going on there as well from Menoth's Tau. And then finally we're going to have the Vassal. He's going to be out of range no matter what, so he's going to go ahead and Ancillary Attack. And the Judicator is just going to spray down that Mechanic. I think he misses the Mechanic, but he does hit the Heavy Myrmidon. Ultimately, I have to go for it. I can't not go for it. No matter how poorly assassination runs always go for me. So we go ahead, we activate Durst, he puts Boundless Charge on the Judicator. He sacrifices his action to go into Cornerstone stance. And then I'm just trying to figure out where in the kill box I can go where I don't, because he saved his feet, so I still don't need him wrapping around the Judicator and freaking getting to Durst, who's not camping anything. So he's just kind of walking over there. And hopefully that's far enough away that if this goes horribly wrong, then it's okay. So I'm also trying to position it so that way I'm blocking off any sort of lanes for the heavy to manage to sidestep around to get to Durst. And I think I've done a pretty reasonable job of that here. So I need 7s to hit. My plan is to boost the first one, do the boosted charge damage, then boost the second one and boost the damage to that. So I boost the first attack roll and miss. So now we're just down to needing freaking 7s to hit, because I don't have enough attacks. So the first one hits, and then the second one hits, and we boost the damage. And that is game. Thanks for watching.
Overall, I am not displeased with the outcome of this game. 3 control points is respectable. In a steamroller scenario, I wouldn't be upset with that. And I knew from the beginning that I didn't really have good tools to deal with a pair of Colossals. My turn 3 placement with Thyron wasn't as good as it should have been, but lesson learned from that. We'll do better next time. See y'all then.